How I quickly compare and choose when I'm looking at hotels. There's always a lot of options when you're looking for any type of accommodation. So this isn't necessarily specific to hotels, but it was kind of the thing that came to mind was hotels. I stay in a lot of hotels, not only because I travel, but also because of dance. A lot of events are hosted in hotels. So you could say I've had my fair share. So the first thing I do when I'm looking at hotels and comparing options is I always start by filtering by the price. Know your budget and stick to it. It's really that simple. Don't show yourself options for things that are outside of your price range. You may be tempted, and then you may be upset later when your bank account's less than it should have been. Um, all that to be said, I always start by filtering for my budget. And this is great because most sites you use, I'm not talking about like well, even specific hotel sites do this as well if there's multiple properties in one location. But if you're using something like booking.com or any of the big travel agencies, or maybe not agencies, but any of the travel search engines, you can filter by price. So I always start by filtering by price. That narrows it down to what I am choosing to have for my hotel or accommodation budget. So number one, I was filtered by the price. The second thing I always look at are the ratings, and they're not. I look for really two things. I look for both the how many stars the accommodation is, but also the ratings from reviews. And there's a couple things you need to keep in mind when you look at reviews. Make sure you also set your filter section, your filters there as well. So you're going to want to filter the reviews to be the most recent reviews. And then here's where you do your research. You're going to read them. I know, I just assigned you homework. I'm so sorry. Read through the reviews. I usually read reviews for about the last 6 months. It gives you a pretty good idea of what is going on at the hotel. And are the, let's say, 4 stars that is received for reviews, is that still accurate? You'll find hotels go through all sorts of different things like any business does. You have a turnover in staff. You maybe have construction or renovation going on. Maybe the neighbor next to them is having some construction going on. So there's lots of things to look for. But definitely read the reviews from the last 6 months. Don't filter by top reviews or 1 star reviews. Just look at those top reviews for about the last 6 months, and it's going to give you a great idea of what's going on. Sometimes you'll find things in reviews where it's like, okay, maybe I can live with that, or maybe not, I don't know. But I also like to look to see when someone has an issue with the hotel, how the hotel responds. Generally, you'll see those the hotel responses in the reviews as well. And I think the way they handle things is a huge indicator of what your stay is going to look like. So again, just a quick recap: start by the price, start by filtering by reviews. After that, it kind of depends on the trip for me when I'm looking at hotels or accommodations and what I'm going to need. If I'm traveling, say, with my car and I know I'm going to need a place to park, I do not like to pay for parking when I'm at a hotel. Just don't. I think it's ridiculous. I'm already paying for a place to stay. And guess what? Most people are going to bring cars. And yeah, I know you make money off it and all that stuff, but I'm not going to do it. So I also add that as a filter of free parking or very inexpensive parking. It's just one of those things. That's my spiel on that one. That's how I feel about it. But if I'm overseas and I don't have a car, then that's not going to be an important factor. I also look for different amenities that I may want. Do I want a pool or a hot tub or a gym? Do I need a business center? Do I want to book a hotel that has a restaurant or maybe a bar? Do I want to make sure this hotel has breakfast service available? Just a bunch of different things that I look through and consider. And those are all things, of course, that it really depends on the type of trip that you're planning. I've had times where it was like, I don't really care where I stay. It just needs to be bed bug free. And like close to the airport because I have to leave at like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. So why do I even have a hotel to begin with? And then there's been times where I know that I am going to be in a place where I would prefer to have a fridge and a microwave and a little, maybe even a little small kitchenette. So I look at something that's more of like a suite style. So that's probably the next thing I look at is does the hotel or accommodation, if it's not a hotel, have the amenities I need? And um is that still within my budget? Of course, sometimes that's just their budget and the needs don't align, and that's fine. That happens. It's not a big deal. You can always figure out which way you can go, which is going to give. It's going to be the budget. Is going to be the accommodation type. But those are really the first three things that I look at when I'm going through. So that was just to recap again, that was the cost, that was the reviews, and then there was also the amenities. And really after that, I kind of am not super picky. I don't really care where I stay. I know there's a lot of people that like to stick with a certain brand's loyalty, or maybe they get a certain status through a credit card that they have. Maybe there's just a really good deal with points. I'm not great at playing the points game, so you won't see recommendations on how to do that here at this time, but I can speak a little bit to rewards programs and credit cards that have boosts in your status with a hotel chain. One of my credit cards, it gives me uh, gold status at Marriott, and then it also gives me the equivalent status at the Hilton properties. So I do tend to stay at Hilton and Marriott properties because I already get the benefits that come with those statuses, that tier of loyalty with them. And I think that's something that can be important. Maybe you're not super picky about it. For me, it is important. I already pay a large annual fee for this credit card in this case, and I'm going to use the benefits that come with that. And I think also just in general, this doesn't have to necessarily be about hotels, but sticking with a brand and building loyalty is really a long game and it pays off over time. Loyalty programs change constantly and they can change at the drop of a hat. So of course, be aware of that. It's just part of the game, but I find that loyalty in the long run really does pay off. It's not necessarily going to be a quick return on these things, but um, if you're some things in travel are a long game, and that's one of them. And that it's not just about hotels and accommodation, but it's also about airlines. They're the same way. Um, it's just the world we live in, unfortunately. But and yeah, that's just another consideration. It's not one of my top three, obviously, but it is something that I look at when I am looking at properties. Sometimes I don't get a choice. If I'm going to an event, dance event, for example, and it's hosted at a hotel, well, they got a room block or a group rate, and that's just where I'm going to stay. I might not get a choice for a rewards program on that one, but um, it's nice when it does happen. It really helps move the needle on that one. So I'm trying to think of maybe any last things I look for. There's always red flags I look for. They're non-negotiables. If I see any mention of bed bugs in a review, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not going. And that's one place where I will break the 6 month rule of looking back at reviews. A lot of times I will search through all the reviews, and if anybody so much as mentions a single bed bug, I'm out. I'm not staying at that property. Where there's one, there's many, and that's non-negotiable for me. I do not want to be around it. I don't want to expose myself to it. And yep, that's where that one's at. Other things I look for, just off the top, I guess. Probably a big one that I should have made a fourth and not kept it till the end. So I'll try and keep this close. We'll call this one the bonus. There's the three, then there's the bonus. Proximity is huge. Location is huge. what is the proximity to transportation? What is the proximity to the airport? What is the proximity to and the event if that I'm attending that doesn't have its own host hotel? That's a very important thing, especially if you don't have a car. You're going to be walking both day and night, safety first. So proximity is a huge one, and really probably it's definitely top five. But and something that I think I just don't even think about anymore, which is why it turned into a bonus. But yeah, proximity, location, as they say. I will stop rambling. I think I'm at about 10 minutes, which is where I try to keep these so they're a little bit more bite size. And yeah, always excited to have you guys here, excited to be here, and I'm just gonna keep trucking along with new topics and seeing where this gets. So I'm gonna catch you the next one.